Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are here in the Teams Global Hack Day. Well, the last day. It's really the last day. Time flies when you're having fun. We are so excited to have all of you here with us at the last day when we will apparently learn a thing or two.
We are so excited that we hit the last day. It's a little bit sad, but also exciting times for us to see what projects you'll build, and we will get a chance to see all the goodness of the projects at the end of, let's say, in 14 minutes, right, Waldeck? In
Exactly,
14
exactly.
hours,
T
actually.
minus. T minus,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we have full packed agenda today. We have so many speakers joining us from the community. We don't want to steal any minutes from them. Let's get started with a couple of reminders about the hackathon, and then we will give stage to the community members.
Definitely. Right. So we've been here already for 2 weeks. Yet we, appreciate that maybe we have new folks tuning in only now. Right. So let's run through a few, mechanical part of the hackathon, and then we will go over to our guests. So first things first. This is a hackathon. As the name says, it's meant to be hacked, right? So it's meant for you to hack, which means hands on, build things, try things out. We began on June 1. Over the last 2 weeks, we've learned a lot. We had our experts from other group with us. We had experts from other fields with us, basically to learn what kind of apps you can build for teams and how would you start and what are the different aspects that you can take into account. And we either had we also had a part of like how can you bring AI into apps for teams. So we learned a lot, and all of those things that we've done are available for you to watch whenever you want. Today, as we said, is the last day. We are 14 hours away from the closing time, which means now is the time for you to submit your hacks. Because again, maybe you had this grand idea and you wanted to do so many things and you just didn't get on time. That is irrelevant. Whatever you have built, share with us. You have nothing to lose. You can only win. And everybody who submits an app for Teams will get a digital badge at least. On top of that, you can win a really awesome prize, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So again, if you've built an app, submit it now. If you haven't built an app, as I said, we've got 14 hours left. There's still more than enough time for you to build something really cool.
Yes, and a couple of steps to remember actually. So, as Waldek mentioned, for you to be eligible for the hackathon, first you have to register. And if you're joining as a team, if you're submitting one project as a team, everyone in the team needs to register as well. So, make sure that everyone registers in your team and you also register to be eligible for the digital badge and amazing prizes. And the second step to remember for us is GitHub repo is the place to be. If you have any questions, we have discussions for you to ask all of your questions. If you need any resources, well, you probably use all of the resources until this time, but you still have 14 hours. So if you still want to dive in a little more, you can leverage all of the resources available. And you will also see the project submissions button there available right on the screen at the top when you go to the GitHub repo right now. And the third step is obviously we had a lot of fun, but now it's time to get serious and submit your project to win all this goodness of the badges and also be eligible for the prizes. We are so excited to see what you built and so excited to also go through all of the projects. And don't forget, this session is also live. Drop your questions in the chat window and we will try to answer them in this live session too. And tell us where you're joining from. If you're interested in where you're joining from and what's your name as well. And with that, the most important part of the hackathon, Waldek.
Prizes, because
Yeah.
we are here at the end of the day for what? Prizes. Exactly. So as we said, everybody who built an app for team, no matter small app, big app, huge app, really cool app, or just a simple app, will get a digital badge. Why? Basically to show everyone that you really put in the effort. You learned something new that you didn't know, and you've got something to show for it. So it's really, really cool. It's something that you will get when you submit an app. Everybody gets a badge, right? So one, two, on top of that, we have some really cool things. So we will award a best AI powered app, best productivity app. On top of that, community ECS sponsors a C64 retro computer for everybody on the team that they will pick. So they will pick their own winning team, and everybody on the team will get this really cool award. And then on top of that, we will pick the grand prize winner. Again, everybody on the team will get an Xbox. So a team up to 4 folks. Everybody on the team will get one, and then everybody on the team will get a $300 digital gift card. So again, really cool things. You've got nothing to lose, everything to win. There is still time to join. So whatever apps you've got for teams, submit them because you can only win.
Exactly. So the next steps. Now we have full pack agenda. So many speakers, as we mentioned. We don't want to wait any less and hear all about where you can continue your journey as a developer right after this hackathon. With that, we would like to welcome our amazing speakers, Hugo and David. They will be actually the hosts of the day. So I'm leaving you with amazing hosts and enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks,
thank you for
IJ.
having us.
Hey guys, excited
Hello.
to see you all here.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Definitely. So with that, how about we start with a short intro about yourself, because we've been here for the last 2 weeks, so people have heard more than enough about us, but they may not know you. So David, how about a few words about yourself to start?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is David Warner, program manager at Microsoft. Ex-MVP, gave that up when I joined Microsoft, but huge passionate fan of the community, work a lot, started up sessions and programs like Sharing is Caring with Hugo and the Recognition program. So excited to be part of the call today.
Excellent. Awesome. And then Hugo, how about a few words about yourself?
Hey, hi, I'm Hugo. I am a principal program manager in the community success team for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I'm a former MVP, but before becoming an MVP, I was an active contributor in the community. I hope I still am. I can be reached at Hugo A. Bernie at GitHub and Bernie H on Twitter. And I'm always super happy to work with others and celebrate others.
Awesome. So with that, I think that is really the point where I give the steering wheel over to you guys. Run with it.
Oh, is this where we're? I didn't know. No, I'm just kidding, everybody.
You were supposed to slide. You have slides, small slides.
Yes, small slides. Yes. Yeah. So this is what's next, right? What opportunities lie ahead in the landscape of this thing called community? So we always like to start by kind of setting the stage and setting the context. So when you look at some of these slides, you think about being stuck potentially in a team of one, perhaps you're in an organization where your team is not large, and you're trying to figure things out alone. We've all been there. We've all tried to figure out how we can figure things out alone. It may seem daunting and intimidating, but we want you to know that that time is over. Working together fuels collaboration. So when we work together in the community, as you see on the backdrop of that comic book, we've got a global community available to us, networks of people that are all willing to help out and want to do good. So what happens if we were to do that versus what happens if we work alone? Well, let's take a look at a quick glimpse of that. Developing alone limits those opportunities. We see this developer has all these ideas, but at the end of the day, what is the results is a simple skateboard, right? We've potentially seen this illustration before. It's a simple skateboard, and at the end of the day, doesn't really do a whole lot. But what if we were to develop together? It can blast us off into new worlds of opportunity. It allows us to see and find more ways to harness the power of the technology that we have. And really, that is what is all about the community. So when you think about the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community, what is it? Well, you can find out more at ak.ms/community/home. Don't go there yet, though, because we got plenty in store for you to talk about today, but that's where you'll be able to find it. And it's governed by a collection of Microsoft employees and MVPs. And you see some of their names here. But what happens is we see that morphing into over 1,500 worldwide contributors, which is amazing, and includes many and all of you, and we are so appreciative. So what does that result in? Hugo, we got a few stats here. Why don't you help us understand some of those stats? Walk us through that.
Well, first of all, we have over 1,500 samples, and actually that number keeps on changing. I think it's 1,572 right now. But contributed by 73,
Yep, it's
contributed
just in.
by more than 1,500 contributors, just like you, right? People who are passionate about solving a problem and sharing with others. And this whole patterns and practices initiative, the community initiative, has been awarded internally at Microsoft as a reference model for community engagement. So this is something that works. And again, when you give people the opportunity to who are passionate the opportunity to share, and you're giving them a voice, you can do some amazing things, right? We have more than 100,000 visitors on GitHub. That's just over the last 2 weeks alone, and David was counting every single one of them manually.
I
And then
was.
we have over 120,000 tenants that are using our open source components each month, and we'll show you some of these initiatives shortly. But we also have more than 5.9 million watch time minutes on the YouTube channel within the last 365 days. So if your internet's been slow, it's probably our fault because people are watching YouTube because of us.
That's right. So some astounding numbers, really. And when you think about it, how are these numbers possible? Are they just simply a collection of a couple of people? No, they're because of all of you. And so really, we want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who's taken time out of your day. You have families, you have jobs, you have personal interests, and you put those aside for a short period of time to give your passion to the community. And we could not be more grateful. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you're doing. We really, really cannot say thank you enough. We love all you're doing. Now, let's talk about some opportunities in some areas in which you can get involved. So the three tenets that we kind of pride ourselves on is learn, reuse, and share. So it's an opportunity for us to take the resources that we have, to learn from them, to reuse them, and then to share them back with others, so we can kind of see that that complete cycle of goodness happening there. So let's start with learning. The first thing is understanding what's available to you all, right? So there is a plethora, which means a lot to me. A plethora definition, a plethora of initiatives and programs that are available to you. So you can see a lot of these AKA links that are available. We've got, as Hugo mentioned, Power Platform and Microsoft 365 community videos and developer videos. We've got LinkedIn discussion groups. There's open source initiatives like CLI for Microsoft 365, PNP.js, PNP PowerShell. You've likely heard of at least one of those things. Sample galleries. Hugo, I think you're going to talk quite a bit about sample galleries. Is there just a couple of samples there?
There's at least three.
At least three. Excellent. Very good. A hat trick of samples for you all.
That's right.
So there's plenty of samples we're going to talk a little bit about with some of our guests as well. Now you can access, again, all these things at ak.ms/community/home. One of the best ways to, though, and this is one of my favorites, I'm a big fan, I started out my kind of initiative and endeavors in the community, is our community calls. They started out hosted by Vesa, and Waldeck was a big part of that. They are what I call a crystal ball into the what's now, what's new, and what's next. And it may seem daunting when you look, oh my goodness, there's a lot of community calls here. But really, you're only talking about a couple hours a week of spending time on community calls. What that gives you and what's so powerful there is the ability to keep up with how the technology is being used. So when you think about the technology, sometimes we get very tunnel visioned, right? We're perhaps working in an organization that has us focused on a particular thing or a particular use case. And we may not understand the breadth and depth of what's possible. And it may be hard to find time to play with the technology. But what these community calls provide us is the ability to see what others are doing. They also are live and consistent, and they're always reliable. So you know that every Thursday, no matter what the holiday is around the world, we are a global community. We are going to be there hosting these community calls for all of you for the Thursday calls. There's also a monthly Power Platform call. There's our Tuesday Microsoft Only Speakers call. So there's a good number of calls to be able to get involved with, and they are so valuable. Hugo, you've hosted a couple, and you've seen, in fact, you were hosting today. What is inspirational things when you think about the community calls?
I think, I mean, we've seen some brand new speakers who had never presented before and were really passionate about sharing a cool demo they had done. and only for everyone in the community to welcome them and to be super grateful. I remember we had I think a 14-year-old presenter one time who again had never presented, and by the end of the call, everyone was very emotional, and people were sending offers for sponsorship and job offers and things like that. And I'm thinking, if I had this opportunity when I was a 14-year-old, like I can't imagine what I would have done. So it's fantastic. And the other thing to point out, David, is that these calls are recorded. So you said 2 hours a week, but if you don't have time, you can actually watch the recordings. You can watch them at double speed, which of course, makes it faster, but it's even more fun because everyone sounds like a squirrel.
That's true. It's like chipmunk community calls,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. Alvin, Theodore, and Simon are all there ready for us. Excellent. Yeah, so I mean, it's a great way to also find out who else in the community is passionate about things. And as Hugo had mentioned, we've had some that have contributed to the community calls first time ever are now MVPs, and that's a great story. And we'll talk a little bit more later in the sharing part when you may think, well, how do I present on these community? How could I get on the docket or the agenda to present on these community calls? We've got you covered. Just hang out to the end for us. Now, there's one more initiative also that we started many moons ago, Hugo. I feel like we're old now, which I guess we are. Sharing is caring. It started out in an endeavor to see who might need hands-on guidance and support to do things like contribute to the community. Because you think about things like GitHub and some of the landscape that can be intimidating. Waldeck, Hugo, you both had to start in GitHub. What are your feelings about that very first time that you contributed to GitHub and going, what's raw and fork and blame? I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I remember doing my first GitHub pull request. I think it was for a repo that Waldeck was managing. And I was so nervous. I checked my pull request probably 1,000 times. And then just after I submitted a period of time that I called an ono second. It's when you hit enter and then you realize you made a mistake.
Oh, no.
As soon as I submitted my pull request, I realized I had made a typo. I was like, oh, that's it. I'm going to be embarrassed forever. People will mock me. I have ruined the entire repository. And of course, it turns out it was not the case. And Waldeck was super supportive, super, happy to help correct my mistake. And that was really the spark that led me to contribute to more samples. What about you,
Yeah, it
Waldeck?
is. Yeah, it is. Thank you. It is. It is really intimidating in a way, right, to work in the open, because again, as you say, like, you are there in the open for everybody to see whether it's right or wrong. And again, if there's one thing that we learn from internet, is that people have opinions and they are not shying away to show them to everybody else, right? So if there's
I happen
anything
to have
else,
something to say about that, Waldeck, actually.
That's great.
yeah, I know, right? So, but it's really, if there's anything else, what I like to look at is the other side, where we get to help others. We share our experience in any shape, whether that's a sample or an article or a piece of code, and we get to share it with others to help advance them in their work. And you actually hear back from them saying, like, hey, like, the thing you've done that helped me, whether to help me grow as a person, to grow my skills, or just solve a thing when I was stuck in my work. So if anything else, it's really cool to be a part of that, because you can help others in an immense scale. So if anything else, this is really, really cool initiative.
And
Yeah.
I think, David, what we did with sharing is caring is we started with that initial fear, right? What is the thing that's stopping us from contributing? Being afraid of being embarrassed about doing our first pull request. And we decided to do something about it where we removed that fear. You
Yeah.
want to talk about the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, we didn't really even explain the concept of it. What it is providing you a safe space opportunity to learn with others. So these are live team calls that we set up, and we're actually working with the community right now to be able to get more involved to scale these events, so that you can join more that's better for your time zone or your schedule, and you're going to work with other members of the community. So you join a Teams call, and a lot of these session topics are available. So we'll take, for example, Power Platform Samples contributor you will join a Teams call with others. It's not recorded, by the way, because I know when things get recorded, everybody gets afraid to ask a question, and that's natural. I do the same thing because you think, oh, it's going to go on record. Should I already know this? Does everybody know it? And then you get afraid to ask. But when it's not recorded, you're in a complete safe space. Ask anything. You learn from others. You work together, and we walk through the process of submitting a pull request. And so if you're new to GitHub, that is empowering, because by the end of that call, which is an hour and a half investment, you are now equipped and confident with what steps you can take to contribute more, sharing with the world your passion. And I think that that's what's really special, is that you're empowered to do more in a safe space. In fact, we've had some join this that have moved on to other things. Hugo, like, tell us a little bit.
I'm trying to remember what example you wanted me to point out, David.
All of them.
Yeah, if you could just cover, I'll be here till midnight. But no, we've had some again that have joined, have never done GitHub request or pull request, and moved on to becoming an MVP, much
right.
like the community calls. Yeah,
We have, and the other day we were looking at how many people have attended these sessions and how many people have continued to do a GitHub pull request. And that's why I'm saying I'm trying to remember which one you're referring to, because we're talking about over 1,200 people in total who have attended and contributed, which is crazy to think about it. Because all these people were they were like, I want to do something, I just don't know how. I don't know that it's my place. Louisa Fries is an example where Louise, when we invited her, actually, because she was really active in the community, but she always said, oh, I'm not a developer, and this is not what I do. And so we invited her. We said, hey, you need to attend a Sharing is Caring session. And I think we created a monster, honestly, because as soon as she learned how to do pull requests, it's like she uncovered a new superpower that she didn't know she had. And she's moved on, or she went on to be a huge contributor to many of the open source initiatives. She helps actually manage now the Power Platform community blog as well, and it's all managed through GitHub. And that's just one example. If you want to stick around, I can list the other 1,999.
That's right. That'd be great. Yeah, we've all got time. Absolutely. So good examples. Definitely keep looking, friends, at Sharing is Caring. We're going to be scheduling more. We're working with more. We're trying to scale it because we can't just do it on our own. It's an injustice if we just try to only handle it and manage it by a couple of people. So we have even more. And if you want to help out, reach out. This is a great opportunity for contributions in and of itself and to meet others in the community. So let Hugo and myself know. Now, I think it's appropriate then for us to kind of go to the community, right? We've had some amazing stories of community contributors that have presented on the calls, presented samples as well. I think Vivian Voss, why don't we bring her to the stage? Vivian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Woo, yeah, good. Woo, the crowd's going wild.
Love the soundtracks you have, David.
Thanks for joining. So why don't you take a moment and introduce to the community who you are?
Hi, I'm Vivian Voss. I am from Denmark. I'm a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform solution architect. I started off as a Dynamics 365, and that's also where I put my focus. Other than that, I am rather active in the community, I would say, both in terms of organizing, but also trying to give back in terms of blogging, speaking, you name it, and also been part of the community goals. So a bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that. Tell us a little bit about what attracted you to the community. Why'd you get involved?
Well, I started looking into Dynamics and Power Platform, and I thought that, I can do that. And I found some blogs like, there's some things that no one has written about. I wonder if that would make sense to write and see if I could kind of be at the same level at some point than some of the people, which have actually become pretty good friends of mine now. But it was the point of saying I found some things that I couldn't find the answer to online. And I thought, okay, I could try and give back. It might not be as thorough or as advanced as I saw some other people writing, but I thought, hey, you got to start somewhere, right? So I started with blogging, and then that actually attracted some of the people in the community. Hey, why don't you talk more about it? It seems like you're interested in that area. And then I went a bit on that, and the next thing I know, I was speaking on stage and loving it ever since.
Cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you'll actually be speak. So I know specifically you presented something on a community call, and then that translated into something bigger, actually.
Yeah, I did a short introduction to the release planner at the Power Platform community call, and magically, then I decided to submit that into the Bankers of Power Platform conference in Las Vegas in October. And what do you know? And now I will be presenting that on stage in Las Vegas. Totally not scary. So we'll see how that goes.
It'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. So how do you feel that this level of contribution has kind of impacted you personally in terms of connecting with the community?
I have learned a lot. Personally, for example, I was scared to death about speaking publicly. I was scared to death to actually bringing stuff out. Exactly like you and Hugo also mentioned, is the fact that the fear of people having opinions online, and the more you put yourself out there, the more you get back, both the negative and the positive. So that was what I was totally afraid of. Don't get me wrong. Second year in, I am still scared to death every time I go to the stage. But I also think that is as a part of it, because the moment I get to the stage, I feel the energy, I feel the people, and that's what fuels me. And also afterwards, the high that you have afterwards, the feeling that you have, the fact that you see people nodding and smiling at you from the audience, that's the best feeling to me, honestly. And then when there's people coming to you afterwards saying, "Hey, I found your session really useful. That really spoke to me." I'm like, yeah, keep going. I can listen to that.
Doesn't hurt. Yeah.
No, so that's what keeps me going.
And I think one thing that you mentioned I found interesting. You said you found something that you didn't see somewhere else, and I think that's sometimes something that people they stop themselves from contributing because they're like, I don't really have anything unique to say. You were lucky that you found something unique to say, but the one thing that I think it's important to remind people is you are allowed to repeat a message
Oh
that
yes.
other people are saying because you have a unique perspective. You may be coming from a different background, a different industry, and it's okay to give it your own spin, right? And or take something that you're passionate about and re-amplify it. Just make sure you give other people the credit if you're talking about their contributions as well.
And that's the thing about community, is the fact that one thing that I might write about something, but there's someone else that has a problem that has been solved by something I wrote or someone else wrote about. And then you can see the posts on social media and everyone is crediting everyone. And that just builds upon everything we do. And that's how you get great solutions in the end. We have people collaborating that didn't even know each other beforehand, but they just found a similar topic to talk about. They found a similar problem to solve together, and bang, then you have an amazing solution in the end.
Yeah,
And you
David,
can work
April, and
together,
I do
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yep. Awesome. Well, Vivian, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to share with us and the community your inspirational story. Looking forward to working more with you, and we'll see you in Las Vegas.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now let's move into the next section. So when you think about reusing, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of components and stuff like that. Hugo, let's keep the train going, choo-choo, and talk a little bit about samples.
See, this slide is out of date. It says 1560. We have
To
have
75 now, I think.
Plus,
Yeah,
plus,
that's right.
plus, which is
Oh,
exactly
plus,
why
that's
we have the
right.
plus.
So we have many repositories behind the scenes for things like SPFX web parts, extensions, adaptive card extensions, Power Platform samples, and script samples, to name a few, and list formatting is another one. And we actually roll them up from the various repositories into a single place, and that's aka.ms/community/samples. And the great thing about this is the sample gallery makes it easy for you to find content through the sample gallery. You can find content by topics, by authors, and things like that. In fact, why don't we look for samples for me, for example. You see, I've been trying to keep myself busy. But the great thing about that is if you're just want to get started in the community, because that's one of the questions in the chat. If you want to get started, how do you get started? Well, if you have a sample you want to share, you can absolutely share it. But the other thing to consider is every single one of our open source repositories, not just the sample repositories, but all the other open source repositories have a issues list. And in the issues list, we actually will go through issues and we'll tag some of these issues as help wanted or good first issue. And sometimes it might be something like someone found a typo in a sample, or someone would like to fix something or add a cool feature. We'll actually tag those issues to make it easy for anyone who just wants to get started to be able to go and contribute. And that's actually one of the contributions I did with repo that Waldeck was managing, where I just went and updated the documentation. And Waldeck warmly received my contribution, and that led me to want to contribute more and more and more. So definitely, if you're looking to get started, that's a great way to do this. Now, the cool thing about when you submit a sample or where you can contribute, you can actually see the list of contributions that someone has done. And so, for example, we have Siddharth, who's been contributing to pretty much every single sample repository that we have. He's done web parts, he's done Teams apps, script samples, adaptive card extensions, extensions, and so on and so forth. And so I thought it would be interesting to have Siddharth come in and join us and talk about his experience, but also bring in Paul, because Paul manages the script sample repository, and maybe he can tell us about his experience. Siddharth and Paul.
Hello.
There's Paul.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Hey, Siddharth. Welcome.
Thanks,
guys.
David.
Why-
Thanks, David.
Why don't you two, starting with Siddharth and then Paul, introduce yourselves to the community?
Hello,
Siddharth?
everyone. Thanks for inviting. And my name is Siddharth Vagasia. I'm an 2 times Microsoft MVP. I love to work on Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Power Apps, Azure.NET. I had been part of this community probably more than 3 years, if I remember correctly. And it's so great to have so many contributors and seeing this community grow globally, which we have seen from last few years. So yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. Paul?
Yeah, so I'm Paul Bullock. I've been an MVP for nearly 4 years now. It's coming up to that time of the year. So I'm a modern workplace architect at Avanade. So I do a lot of the sort of strategic stuff for organizations. But with the community side, I've been part of PMP now for just as long as I've been an MVP, which is super cool. At the moment, I'm an owner of PMP script samples, and that repository is coming up in 2 days. It's celebrating its 2nd year birthday, which is super cool. So, and that grown quite large and quite rapidly, which has been super cool. But it's not about me putting it out there to the community. It's the community coming back and contributing to it, and I'm immensely grateful to every member that has contributed. And Siddharth, you're one of those who have contributed a few samples. So a great thanks to your contributions and to the many others that I've had on my repository.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's a great story. That's kind of why we brought Siddharth and Paul in together, because you've got this submitter, contributor in Siddharth, and a contributor in Paul, but also organizing a lot of that stuff. And these samples, by the way, Hugo, they go all the way from low code, Power Platform, list formatting to .NET development as well, right?
Oh yeah, don't let me. I work in the low code side of things, but I come from a pro code background. So don't let my perspective influence the results here. Yes, we do cover low code and pro code all the way, and in fact, a lot of the samples in the sample repository kind of cover some of that content.
Yeah, excellent. So it's a wide spectrum of opportunity. Now, Siddharth, for you, as Hugo mentioned, you're going for the full collection of badges, right? You're checking all the boxes. And I think once you get them all, we have to send you like a set of steak knives or something. So let me know once you get those. We'll ship that out.
Yeah, definitely. But there are so many repos available depending on different technology stack and different use case. But yeah, I do have few checks to be marked.
Yeah, but in addition to the badges and the recognition, what has kind of inspired you to want to contribute to multiple repos?
So one of the thing which I mean definitely which I thought of contributing to various repos was to kind of try my hands on the different types of repos which are available. Okay, uh, SPFX web parts being one, then we have extension, then we have adaptive card extensions. So as a part of my personal learning growth, which whenever a new technology kind of evolves, and we being in Microsoft 365 technology stack, we know there is a new feature, a new announcement, new releases coming every hour, like our samples are increasing the same way we have new features and announcement increasing. So I kind of always thought, like, what if I am a consumer of that particular repo like PNP PowerShell or an Office 365 CLI script or an reusable Office script samples, why can I also be contribute when I am doing something from my side and which I think can be reused by the community, right? And that is whole purpose of the community, basically, to learn and kind of share and then reuse also, definitely.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I mean, the truth is that your full-time job is not building samples and contributing to the community, so submitting them to the community, right?
Correct.
And if it is, then I think there's a lot of people out there that would like to know if you're hiring. But assuming it's not, you spending personal time doing that. So how has spending some of that contribution time, personal time, impacted your connection with the community, and what keeps you going?
Right. So definitely, being part of this global community and various people involved in the community, I have met so many awesome people. Probably be it on Twitter, on one-on-one message. I had also got a chance to kind of collaborate with many of them. As we are kind of sharing the stories, I wanted to share a story of my personal with Hugo, which we have here. Uh, Probably 3 years back, when I was planning to move away from my full-time job and doing an independent consulting thing. Hugo by then also was an independent consultant. Uh, I know him by the community. I know him. He was also, contributing to the community. I reached out to him on the Twitter saying, I would like to have some advice from you. You being an independent consultant, and I'm planning to do this. I remember we had probably around 45 to 1 hour uh, 1 hour of call where he has given me all the advice on what his journey was, what to expect, what not to expect, and it has definitely helped me a lot. So that is how collaborating with community members is, and the prime example, Hugo being here, I would like to mention him and thank you very much. It has helped me very lot.
Was it only three years ago? It at most it felt like I don't know 36 months ago.
Right. Who's counting? Who's counting? Who's counting?
No, we don't.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. No, you hang up first. No. All right. So, Paul, you've got the flip side of that, right? So you're a contributor, but then you've taken on a different approach. So as you mentioned, you moderate and own the script samples repo, which is by far, friends, one of the best repos to contribute to if you've not, because we've all got utilities of some sort or another, whether it be PowerShell, CLI for Microsoft 365, PNP, JS, or something else. And this is a simple way to get those little utilities up and share them with the world. Paul, you took that on, and it's one of those, you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So it takes a lot of passion. Tell us a little bit on what drives you there and why it's been such a worthwhile endeavor.
So you sort of touched on the point there around utility scripts. So back in sort of the history of my own career, I was an independent contractor, and that's one of the reasons why I sort of joined the community calls to get to know people, because I didn't have peers in my company or anything like that. So it was a way to connect and build those relationships. And over time, obviously, things started. I started contributing to like a .NET repository, which is now the PNP framework for the modernization tooling, and that was a really cool introduction to sort of contributing. But over time, I became an MVP from that, and then as one of the areas in the community that I was looking is, rather than specific repo, find a sort of a new area that I could potentially take on and manage. And as I was writing the PowerShell scripts for a project, I started thinking, hold on a minute, this stuff is reusable and generic. So I work a lot with PMP PowerShell and sort of that sort of PowerShell modules. And I thought, well, what if we were able to share this? And I found that during the community calls, some of the side discussions that you have, and they're immensely valuable, actually, attending those calls and having those side discussions, that a lot of other people had samples to share as well. And also the CLI for Microsoft 365 had their samples. So it's sort of born the idea that perhaps we should collate all this together and sort of build a central repository to share this. And that's where Script Samples was born from, really. And I was able to contribute my, what I had as well. And then we started getting contributions to the repo, and it sort of birthed from there. And the important thing is when people do contribute to the repo. I'm immensely grateful for any contribution to the repos, and it's super important to articulate that as well. So I go off and I make sure that any sort of contributions is thanked publicly, so both by Twitter, and also they have a mention on the community calls as well. And David, you've created an awesome program with the recognition program with the badges. So contributing to Script Samples now gets you a badge, and now we've sort of introduced the 3 levels as well. So we do have a few contributors that do very much regularly contribute, and that is super cool. So finding that extra way to recognize them has been I think for me actually has been a huge value to showing that we care about what you do. And that's it's sort of grown from there, really.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of hands that put into the recognition program, so thank you for the kind words. Hugo's one of those. But I think your story is unique and exciting too, because you went from contributing to having an idea on how to empower others to contribute, which is really what makes a contributor so amazing, is when you're looking for ways to empower others. How did you have to fill out forms in triplicate and get a DNA test and all of that to make that happen? Or I think what I'm looking for here is the story is inspirational, because if you have an idea like that, like Paul had, you can bring it to the community and say, I've got these great ideas to empower others. How did that experience go for you?
Yeah, the initiation was brutal. I had to do lots of tests, and it was about taking an idea and doing a little bit of research, speaking to a few people in the community, and finding out, is there substance to this idea? And there were people, a few places said, oh, I've got my own script repositories, I've got my own. And then you got another set of people, and I found that they're very similar. So when the site was born, it was about communicating out that there is this central spot. Okay, I think it took me a couple of months to get a site built and have that sort of staging area, get processes in place and things like that. But once you've got all that in place, it's more about marketing it, letting people know it's there. It's super important that people know it's there. So it's almost like an eat, sleep, rinse, repeat with the, putting it on Twitter, social media, setting up, having that mentioned in the community calls. So it's about, if you've got an idea, do a bit of research, speak to people around you, the peers in the community, and see if they're willing to help you on that as well. So find people that help you to work with that, and then approach potentially a community leader, and then say, hey, I've got this great idea. Do you think that would suit that particular thing in your space? And then they can either say yay or nay, and then it can go from there. So if you do have an idea, shout about it. I think that especially if it's for adding value to the community, you've got that idea. We all started from somewhere, and there is that threshold where you're like, I've got this idea, am I going to get judged or knocked down if I say about it? But the community is not like that, and it's so friendly and welcoming. You can put that idea out. I've put some crazy weird ideas out there in the past, and it's not the best, but okay. You get that sort of soft nudge, but most of the time it's quite welcoming, and more importantly, it's like, hey, have you considered this? And it sort of course corrects you on your thinking and gets their input as well. So it's worth publicly mentioning this to people so that you can get that thing moving forward. If you've got that idea, then go with it. Get your find your tribe, as I've heard and described in the past.
Yeah, and I think that ties in nicely to consistency and don't give up, right? So Hugo, I know, just going back a little bit to sharing is caring, when we started that, there was those who are going to maybe say, I don't see the value in that, or I don't see how that's going to help people. But when you know that you're coming with I want to help others, and this is going to help others, it just takes time for them to see it's there and understand it's available. I think, Paul, that probably is something that contributed too. You were persistent and you were consistent and you didn't give up, even though maybe it was a potential slow start.
And supportive as well. That's the thing. Is because you may have a submission path that you've developed, and you need to help the people that want to contribute to get that submission in, and do that. And so I'm always looking for ways to simplify that process, or support them, and people can reach out to me directly and say, hey, I've got this thing, I'm struggling to get it into your repo, can you help me out? And then we'll sort of go through any processes. I've got documentation, things like that, to help them out.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to look for ways to super simplify things going forward as well.
And I think we should also mention that we're talking about contributing to samples and doing things. Sometimes we stop ourselves by saying, oh, it's not going to be good enough, nobody's going to like this. Honestly, if you do something that you would use and you find useful, and you say, hey, I'm just going to share this with others, if you happen to find it useful, great. I think you'll be surprised, right? So don't overthink it. In fact, when I started contributing in the community, it was pretty much a note to self. Like, I would actually, instead of just writing something on my own hard drive and I wouldn't share it, I would say, here, this is for me, for later. But if anybody else wants to see it, go take a look. And
Yeah, that's a great point, Hugo, because I think whether it's samples or, in your case, it was a blog, for some it's a video. I know when I first started my blog and started doing videos, no one saw them because they didn't know they existed. And some will say, well, who's going to know if I write a blog? Well, you'll know. And to Hugo's point, you're maybe writing a tip to yourself in the future, but over time, people will find it. So don't be afraid. And there's great ways in the community to get help. I know Waldick and Vesa host PNP Weekly, which covers the contributions of those in the community. Hugo and I do Power Platform Connections. So definitely look into those. We will re-amplify what you're doing. We're here to support you. So Paul, Siddharth, thank you both for taking a few minutes out of your day to share with us and the community the benefits that you've received by contributing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
guys.
thanks for all your contributions. And I have to tell you, David, there's no better feeling than writing a blog for yourself and then later searching for it on the internet and finding your result. And you're like, wait a minute, I remember this. I know this guy.
Yeah, I like that guy. Smart. All right, let's transition over into share. So you've seen opportunities to consume in the community. You've seen opportunities to utilize and reuse some of the utilities that are in the community, things like the samples. There's other open source, like we had mentioned, CLI for Microsoft 365, PNP.js. But what about sharing back? What if your migration has taken you to the point where you have done this and you want to share? Well, as we mentioned, we absolutely welcome anyone and everyone to present on those community calls. You can do that by going to ak.ms/community/request/demo / right? But definitely go there. There's a form for you to fill out, very simple. Now, all three of us, I think, Hugo, Waldick, we've all presented. I'd love to hear just a couple of minutes, because we do have one more guest. What are some of the benefits that you two have received by presenting on the community call?
Hugo, you want to go first? Or
I like you go. You go ahead.
Oh, you hang up first. No,
I'm
go
more
first.
interested in what you have to say.
I threw him a curveball, everybody. So that's why they're.
Yeah, no. So perfectly fine. Like, I recall, and I share sentiment that we've already heard. Like, speaking in the open wasn't a thing for me at all. And I recall my first time when I spoke in the community. It it wasn't obvious. Like it took deliberate effort to go out there, and the kind of the weapon that I had was that, you know what, or the power that I had was that I picked a topic where in which I was strong. It's like, okay, this is my thing. Like, people cannot ask me something that I don't have the answer to, and that was really how I approached it for a long time. And basically, like it went from, because like the first time that I spoke in public, that was like 2008, and community that we've got today wasn't a thing there yet, right? So basically there was a user group, and from there I went to local events, regional events, and up until today, the moment I am about to go on stage or go live is like, oh my, like, why on earth have I committed to this? Like, why? Never doing it again. And then I'm done. Adrenaline hits. You've got that rush. You've got people nodding. It's like, yeah, like you hear back, this is awesome, valuable. I learned. I was like thinking immediately, when can I do another one? So it's this really like double-edged sword with when it's like you've got stress, but then you get in the open, you get to see you helped others. Things you learned are meaningful to others too, and that is really like at least to me invaluable. Like there's nothing better than that. The feeling that you've got that you helped someone else.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the same perspective. I look at it like I think, okay, well, I might not be the best presenter, I might not be the most eloquent, I might not even have the most interesting thing to present, but this is something that I'm super passionate about. And when I present, I let my passion, shine. I just share my enthusiasm with people, and people might be like, I was not really interested in this, but this guy is so passionate about it. I want to look into it. And then there's no better feeling when you start seeing people taking their cameras and taking screenshots of your slides in the audience, because that's important to them. And feeling scared or nervous, I think is a good thing because it means that you care for the audience, right?
Yep.
If you didn't care about the audience, you wouldn't be nervous. You'd be like, whatever, right? But you care and you want the audience to have fun. You want the audience to enjoy themselves and to get something from your presentation, and that's admirable
Yeah.
is that for you to want people to enjoy. So keep that fear when you're presenting, because there's that presenter's high after, right? Like the jogger's high, the presenter's high after you present, when you're like, oh, this was so awesome, I want to do it again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and also maybe to add to that, people in the audience, as you know, scary as they might seem, especially if it's a big group, like they want your talk to be awesome. They chose to be there for you, so they are on your side. They're not against you. They are on your side. They are your fans. They are there to learn from you. So if anything else, you can also think about it like flip the mindset, and it's like, no, like these folks are there, like we are a team, we are in this room together, all of us, and it's not like me against them. No, they want you to rock. They are there, they chose to be there and not to do anything else.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the crazy thing about that is, agreeing, Hugo and I talk about that all the time, the nerves, it's okay. The wonderful thing is that once if you're passionate about it, and if you know it, like the both of you have said, you get on stage or in front of the camera and you start talking, it all goes away because you're just in the moment of being excited for what it is that you're presenting on. So everyone, do not hesitate. You don't overthink it as well, and don't think, well, I have to come up with some newfangled flux capacitor that no one's ever seen before. It's absolutely okay to present something that someone else has, because sometimes you give it a slight difference in perspective, or don't think it has to be too complex. It could be a simple tip or trick that you found useful. We welcome all of them. We want it to be your community call, so do not hesitate. Now,
Hey, and
why?
if you're nervous about presenting, also think about co-presenting,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Reach out to someone. In fact, as part of the sharing is caring, we have the buddy system where if you want to present and you're just not comfortable doing it yourself, we'll pair you with someone who has experience. And
absolutely.
that's definitely something. I mean, David and I co-present all the time because he makes me look good.
Sure, we'll call it that. But co-presenting is perfect because now you're working with others. It also sets a good example in the community that you're working with others and collaborating, and you'll learn something together. Two heads are better than one, three are better than two. And it's open to everyone. It's not just those that are employed doing this for work. You could be a student, you could be an enthusiast. As Hugo had mentioned, we've had 14-year-olds on before and children. So it is open to everyone. We absolutely welcome anyone and everyone. So now why share back to the community? Well, you're going to get officially recognized. That's always a great thing. And if you're a consultant or working within an organization that you can use that to show that you're making a difference to your managers, your clients, that's great. You're also sharing back likely to the people that have helped you. So you're kind of getting up to that next step, that next level. Your contributions are visible. So if you're ever going for MVP, then that's great. That's available there. And we are recognizing you with a Credly badge. What Credly badge? Well, the recognition program. We talked a little bit about that. This is our program that's powered by Credly. This is not something that's ending. We just renewed. In fact, we upped it a little bit. So we're going to be doing more campaigns to recognize others. It is absolutely free to join. ak.ms/community/recognition. We will scour GitHub for all of the contributions that you're doing across the different sources of samples and repositories that we've talked a little bit about. And we will recognize you. And it's great because it goes and is associated to your LinkedIn profile. You can put it on your resume. Others have put it on their blogs. I print it out, put it on the fridge. My kids laugh at me, but that's okay. I'm proud. And it's great.
Yeah, and maybe another thing to add to that, the badge that you will get from the hackathon is coming also from here. So this is also
Absolutely.
like one group too.
Yep. It's collective. Hugo, go ahead.
Yes.
And I was going to say, yeah, before I joined Microsoft, I was an independent consultant, and my contributions not only helped other people, but they helped me as well. Because, when I would go interview with a potential customer and say, well, I don't know, do you know SharePoint? And I'd say, oh, well, have you used this thing? And they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, hey, I wrote that, right? And so the ability to basically build a reputation from your contributions in the community, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's even better than certifications, because certifications shows that you learn things and you can answer questions, but contributions in the community show that you have practical experience and you've actually demonstrated that. So I'm not saying don't get certified, but both go hand in hand.
Absolutely. In fact, we've seen some in the community say that this means more to them than their certification badges, simply because that passion, not that the passion's not there for certifications, but this is a labor of love in the evenings and weekends often that folks are doing to contribute. And we wanted to make sure that you all are recognized. Now, speaking of contributors, we're going to bring in our last guest, Heidi Jordan, MVP in the business app space. Heidi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, you
There we go.
There we go.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself to the community?
Sure. Heidi Jordan. I am from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I am a senior modern workplace consultant.
Awesome. Short and sweet. Very good. And she's a Viking fan too. So
I am.
I like that.
We have that in common. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
All right.
The what?
Yeah, football. Never mind. That is also a labor of love, but a labor of pain. So we'll save that for another day. All right. So you've done a lot, and you're starting to get more involved in sharing is caring and sharing with others. You're always willing to say, what can I do to help others? You've approached Hugo and I multiple times, and we've started working with you on a number of things that you've helped out by empowering others to do more, and that means sharing. So have you personally noticed any personal professional benefits to taking that kind of a perspective to what is a contribution? Sharing to others is a contribution, and how has that impacted you?
I mean, honestly, to my surprise, was the MVP award. That is one thing that, I got to a point in this. I've been around the community a long time, 10, 12 years. I've been going to conferences. I've been doing all these activities and learning. And then I started to just flip the script and say, what can I do to get back here? And then that's just kind of where it all took off. So, and then as a result of that, I got the MVP award.
Yeah, that's always exciting. That moment you get that email is, I still remember the moment that I got mine, which was unforgettable. I'm sure Waldick, Hugo, you both are in that boat.
Like the first one, so I got mine back when we had the awards 4 times a year, and I got mine on New Year's Day. The first thought that I had was, it's a prank. Like, no way on earth that I am getting an MVP. It's a prank. It's gotta be a prank. And then I log into the site. It's like, it's working. Oh my God, it's real. Brilliant.
Hugo?
Well, it's a bitter subject for me because I decided to work for my MVP award so I could go to the MVP summit. And as soon as I won the MVP award, they announced that the summit was canceled because of COVID. So thanks for bringing back that memory, David.
But you got to attend it as a community program manager.
I
So
did.
you turn the tables there. Awesome. So Heidi, yeah, you've been sharing back with the community. You've been awarded with the MVP. You're also going to be speaking and have spoken at various conferences. But what inspires you to keep? Because at some point we've seen a lot of folks in the community go, well, I've gotten it. Mic drop, I'm moving on. But you're actually looking to do more. You've said that you want to be more involved in sharing is caring, and that is a very great thing because you're empowering others. What inspires you to want to do that?
I think it's because the community has got me where I am today. So I know it's time to, like I said, flip the script. I worked in jobs for many years. I heard a lot of the other presenters say this, that when you're working in technology, it's isolating. Sometimes you're the only one and you've reached the top and there's nobody above you to ask questions to. So then you turn to that community and then you start, I got so much from that community that I started to realize there's other people that were in my shoes and it's time for me to, help them on their journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you again. We're running short on time. Thank you for taking a few minutes out and spending it with us today and sharing your story with the community. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, as we wrap up here, folks, I think there's one thing to keep in mind, and that is your team is bigger than you think. Whether you're one person in an organization, an independent consultant, you have a bigger team of superheroes, and yourself is included in that team. So don't hesitate to get involved in the community. Reach out to myself or Waldeck or Aicha or Hugo or anyone that you've seen on this live stream today. If you have any questions, we want to empower you to do more, and we're looking forward to working with you. So as mentioned, again, your team is bigger than you think. Never forget that. Hugo, Waldeck, any final words?
Thank you so much. That is really the only thing that I can add. It's been really great. Like, although I talk to you and other folks a lot, like, it's always great to hear their story because that's something that we don't get to hear that often, and it's so inspiring. So if anything else, thank you so much for being here and bringing our guests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think what's really cool is even in today's call to see the interconnectedness of one person helping another. You help me, I help someone else, and it's please continue, pass it on, and help others. We'll be here.
Absolutely. Pay it forward. Thank you all. We'll hopefully see you in the community.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Wow, what an awesome session. David, Hugo, thanks so much. As Waldeck mentioned, it was so nice to closing out the hackathon with you both. And we have one last thing to say with Waldeck, and then I guess we are already over time. We will close out the session. But thanks a lot again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay.
So what is the
I can't
one
believe
thing
this
that
is the end.
we've got to say? Yes, exactly. Like, what is the one thing that we've got to say, Aicha?
I think it's just that we would like to see your project submissions. We want you to see that you earn the badge from the hackathon. You also go ahead and contribute in the community, and you earn new badges from the community as well. But first things first, you have 14, maybe 13 hours left now. If your project is not submitted yet, make sure to submit your project in the hackathon, and we'd like to see what you built. I think that's about it.
Definitely. I think it's 12 hours, 58
12
minutes,
hours?
11 hours to go. Anyways, yes, the clock is ticking. Again, submit your apps. We cannot wait to see what you all build. And keep in mind, every hack qualified. As long as it's an app for team, you're in. So don't forget to do it. And we hope to see you online.
Thank you so much for coming this far with us. And we are so excited to see all your projects coming in the next couple hours. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.